called the Daisy Patch. That is my brand. And I call myself a joy coach. What I really do is I work with highly stressed out, very ambitious people who have very much got to this stuck point in their lives. They've reached this crossroads. A lot of the time, busy has a lot to do with it. A lot of the time, they are questioning something big in their life, like, should I or shouldn't I do this thing? And something keeps stopping them. And I really take them from that questioning of should I or shouldn't I, quit my job, to moving to a place where they can live a joyful life, regardless of what job they're in. And that's really my intention for you with the Freedom from Busy workshop tonight, is to bring you into that space and that context, okay? I've got a lot of busy bees I'm seeing in the chat box as well, which is great. You are in the right place. So part of the conversation tonight, I want to check that it's okay with you to really step into a space of non-judgment. Like, really don't judge yourself. Don't judge the thoughts that are coming up. Maybe you've got a question and you're thinking, no, I really don't want to answer that. Danielle's going to think it's weird. Please ask it, because that's going to serve not just you, it's going to serve everyone else in the room, in the virtual room as well. And I want to check that it's okay if I maybe encourage us to go and play in a place that you haven't been to before. That the webinar tonight is really your opportunity to take this thing that's bugging you, this frustration point, this busy bee-ness in your life right now, and to maybe look at it in a whole new light, to put a new spin on it. Is that cool with you? It might feel like I'm stretching you a little bit and challenging you a little bit, and is that okay? So just pop it in the chat box. Give me a yes, yes, yes. Yes, that's okay. Something so I know you're still listening. Okay, amazing. All right. Don't worry, not too much challenge. We're going to have some fun as well. I promise, okay? Because this is what it's all about as well. So I imagine that, actually, why don't you let me know, why are you here? I know that you're busy. If there's anything else that you're here for, pop that into the chat box as I get started on this train of thought, which is, I'm imagining that you are here because you are busy, yes, but more so than that, I imagine that something is going on for you where you are on this feeling of like you're treading water. You're in some sort of limbo zone where you keep doing the same thing over and over again. And you want things to be different, but you haven't been able to break out of that yet. So you keep spinning, and it's frustrating and it's exhausting, and you're snapping at your partner, and you can't even fathom cooking dinner every night. And you probably, maybe you're even coming home crying every night after work. Now, the reason I say that is because that really resonates with me. That is absolutely where I was at. I spent years doing the right thing, doing what I should do next. And I thought, like, if I kept doing it, then like I would feel really good, right? You tick the next box. I did really well at university, and I made sure I did some traveling, and I made sure I got the good job, made sure I got the good promotions. And I got to this place where I was doing all the right things, and I was really stressed out. And I hadn't quite acknowledged that yet. From the outside, looking in, my life was great. I had, I was in a new partnership. I just moved in with my beautiful boyfriend. I just got a promotion. I decided that wasn't enough. I needed to enroll in my master's part-time and study that as well. And the team was really short-staffed, and I was working long hours, and I was coming home every single night crying. And my poor boyfriend, pretty new to moving in together, the poor guy, was still together, a decade later. So don't worry, I didn't scare him away too much. But he was like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like something's off. I'm unsatisfied. And I felt so guilty for even saying that out loud. I should be happy. I should be, grateful for where I'm at, but I felt guilty. And so what I thought I had to do was fix it. I thought, I don't want to feel this feeling. I don't want to feel this kind of exhaustion and, feeling of just like, I don't know, like limbo zone. So what do I do about it? I thought, well, maybe I'm not trying hard enough. Maybe I need to start having conversations with other teams. Maybe I need to move teams. Maybe I need to do better at my master's. Maybe I'm not getting the right grades. Maybe I need to go on, another travel thing to get some more experience. Like all of these things was like, what else do I need to do? Because if I can just keep doing, once I've done that next thing, then this feeling will go away. So who can identify with that? Can you just like drop me an emoji, a thumbs up are great. Let me know if that's something that you've ever experienced in your life. I'm just catching up on some of the comments as well. Yeah, we've got a few raised hands as well. Great. Yeah. Yeah. So what this tends to do for us then, this busyness, is it gets us into a trap. Because in my experience, I kept doing, but I just felt worse. And so I thought, but I feel bad. I don't want to feel bad. So let me do something else. And before you know it, you're in this busy trap. So that's what I talk about when I say we get stuck in this busy trap. Yeah. Yep. I've got some yeses. Yeah. It starts to feel empty, emotionally speaking. Yes. Thank you, Chadia. People say they have all the spare time. I never have. I'm always multitasking. Yes, I really get what you mean, Aileen. And can I just say in advance, I do my best to get the pronunciation of your names correct. Feel free to correct me and I will do my best. I do love learning, so I apologize in advance if I always need a project once and I get it and I never enjoy it. Yes. So what is it about that, okay? What is it about the way in which we're approaching this in our lives? Because a lot of you are sharing that, yeah, I feel that. I don't want to feel that anymore. And I really feel when it comes to fixing busy, when it comes to fixing that overwhelm and that stress and that exhaustion, that we've got the conversation backwards, okay? I imagine that you have likely jumped onto Google at least a dozen times, maybe 100 times. You have opened up your Instagram and started scrolling. You've opened up your LinkedIn and you have been looking for answers. And the answers you've gone looking for are to the question of, what do I do about busy? How do I stop being so stressed? How do I get unstuck? Am I right? Who's done that? Who's opened up Google and been like, I don't want to feel stressed? And so often the responses, yeah, we got some raised hands coming up. That's great. The responses that, at least I was getting and still do, I typed into Google the other day, the conversation is always about stress. And I get it. We are stressed. We are more stressed than ever before. And I understand, all of that, that conversation is important. We need to know about that. And yet I also think, like, tell me if I'm right or wrong here. I imagine that you already know that. When you're Googling, I'm stressed. I know that the stress is having a toll on my body. I know that being busy is not healthy for me and I want out. And so what starts to happen is you go down this rabbit hole of finding out more about how being busy and stuck is really frustrating for you and you're really stressed. Does that make sense? And I really feel like that conversation therefore is keeping us stuck in that busy trap. Yeah. Oh yeah. Thanks, Misha. Yeah, it's so true. So I was wondering if tonight, if it would be cool for us to completely turn that around, for us to like flip that backwards conversation around and actually get you unstuck, to start to see things from a whole new perspective and maybe give you like new glasses to look through. How would that be for you? Let me know. I need to drink a lot of water when I get excited. And this is a topic I get really excited about. I'm loving the emojis that have sunglasses on. They're really cool. Thank you for sharing those. So what ended up happening with me is I was looking for all of these answers to fix the feelings I was having. I was getting migraines and I was thinking, oh, I need to stop the migraines. I need to go and fix this. I was getting digestive issues. I was like, I need to figure out what I'm eating. I need to swap what I'm eating. I was feeling exhausted. I was like, oh, maybe I'll go get a massage. All of these things that I was doing to try and kind of patch things, I hadn't yet connected all of the dots. I hadn't realized that, hey, maybe the migraines are related to the digestion, is related to the stress and the busyness. And all of that reached a head when I actually ended up taking time out from work. I ended up going on stress leave. And let me just say that that was one of the scariest things I have ever done in my life. And I have jumped out of an airplane before. To have to call my boss up and essentially say, hi, I can't handle it anymore. So I'd love to know if that, if that resonates for any of you. Have you, that feeling of what was stopping me from stopping was actually that conversation, because I was terrified That if I admit that I'm not quite coping right now, or something's, you know, quote marks, wrong with me, then what are people going to think? You know, they're going to think that I can't handle it. Like, they're not going to think that I'm this incredible, intelligent, high achieving woman anymore. And I started to really worry, what would people think? So the reason that I held back on that stopping for so long was because of all of those fears and concerns that kept coming up. And that's what keeps us stuck in that trap. I know that you want to explain it away right now. I know that there are other pressures going on for you right now, granted. And I know that there are like so many deadlines at work, and you're adjusting to a new environment, and you're trying to figure it all out. And then there's the home stuff and the family stuff. And I know that all of that is relevant. And the reason that you keep going back to that conversation is because having that conversation with yourself gives you a sense of control back. If you can just explain it away, then this busy, overwhelming feeling, I can hold myself away from it. So what we do with busy is we kind of use it as a tool to keep us numb to not feeling all of that stuff, because it feels out of control. It's uncertain. We don't know how we're going to cope. So let me just go back to busy. And that's how it gets ingrained as this automatic, strategy that we run. When I took this time out, I started to see how all these pieces were connected, and I started to feel a different way. And so what I'm going to share with you now is I'm going to share those three things. I'm going to share three simple strategies to give you that freedom that you're craving right now, to give you that relief from busy. And these three strategies happen to be really related to the very reason why you're stuck, and you're still stuck. So how does that sound? Are you all ready to dive in? Let me know. Yeah, I'm just going to wait for some of the comments to catch up. Okay, so Hilda's sharing she's totally connected with my story. You stopped working around November. Yeah, after fighting with yourself for a long time. Yes, I get that. Who else gets that feeling of like, no, it's not right to stop, and I should be more grateful for this position that I'm in and all of that. Absolutely. Yeah. Great. So just remember as well, if you've got any questions at all, I know there's a lot of hands raised over in the Q&A section, but if you actually if you actually type in your questions, that's going to be a lot easier for me at the end to like navigate and respond directly. So I can see a lot of hands raised, which is amazing. I love it. I love that you have those questions. Also, if you write them down, it helps you to not forget. It helps you to remember. So by the end of the webinar, if you're like, why did I raise my hand? Then you'll know why. So I will come back to you. I promise you, I'm not ignoring you. Okay. So the three strategies. The three strategies are, number one, focus. Number two, space. And number three, feel. I'm actually going to pop that straight into the comment box right now. So let's see if I can multitask as well. We've got focus, space, and feel. So the very first thing is what that is keeping you stuck is what we were just talking about before, which is that feeling of I need to control this feeling. I need to get back in control. There's too many plates spinning. There's too much uncertainty. And I'm super worried that if I just stopped and allowed everything to crash and fall, what would people think? So that's that. We've already spoken about all that. And side note, they're very natural fears to have. Intrinsically, we're trying to keep ourselves safe. And so it's pretty natural to worry, am I going to get judged? Am I good enough? Like, what are people going to think about me? Will I get kicked out of, this group? It's pretty natural. But what we're talking about tonight is how to kind of retrain that thought. The reason that you're stuck is also for what you're focused on. So when I asked you all at the start of the webinar, like, what are you here for? I saw a lot of like, yes, I'm busy. I'm a busy bee. I've got lots going on. Like, there's a lot of that filtering through. And this is about that conversation I spoke about earlier about we've got it a little bit backwards, because what we tend to focus on is the stress and the busyness. So what do you really want? Can you define that? Can you tell me right now, like, if you're busy, what is it that you want instead of the busy? So I used to run a lot of workshops on essentially the theme of work-life balance. And a lot of these people would come through in my workshop rooms and they'd be like, yes, I'm here. And I'd say, what do you want? They're like, oh, I'm just really busy at work and I've been having these really late nights and I'm really stressed and my daughter's school just sent this message and I've been really worried about it. And the dialogue would continue. They would keep telling me, I'm stressed, I'm busy, I've run out of time, I just don't know how to manage my time, I don't feel like I'm being productive. And the conversation would continue about essentially like the stress that they were experiencing. And then I would ask them, what do you actually want? Like, if that is how you are experiencing your world right now with busy and stress, like what is it that you do want? Are you able to define it? Busy keeps us trapped. How come busy doesn't feel the void inside? Yeah, Chadia, if you want me to answer that, pop it in the Q&A box, but I really get what you mean as well. Yeah, it doesn't, it's a numbing process. It doesn't fill us up because it's a temporary fix to this feeling of wanting to be in control. I'm getting sidetracked. I will come back to that, I promise, Chadia. So I'm even writing myself a note, control and void. So when I would ask these beautiful people in the workshop, I'd say, well, what is it that you really want? And a lot of people would struggle with being able to clarify that. So give it a go right now. Try it out. Pop it in the chat box. Like, what is it you do want? Like if you're at a workshop for freedom from busy, you're at a workshop to quit busy. What is it that you actually want then? Like, what are you going to do when you quit busy? When we can create clarity around what we do want, we can get pulled towards it. I have no doubt that you are all people who have typed into Google time management. You've been to all of the productivity workshops. You've read all of the books. You are seeking a way to manage your situation better right now to create more balance. How have you gone about creating clarity around what it is you really want? You've likely heard that expression before, that what you focus on is what you get. Yeah. Has anyone heard that before? Just pop that in. Oh, we've got some explanations coming through now as well around what you're wanting. Fulfillment. That's beautiful. Yeah. So when we can define what it is we do want instead of what we don't want, what it actually does is it helps your brain understand that it's okay to take you there. And I know this sounds a little bit crazy to begin with, but literally our brain is designed to keep us safe. So the busyness is our brain's way of like blocking things off and being like, just do this one thing, because in this one moment, you know exactly what to expect. And even if it's stressful, and even if you don't want to be doing this one project and the thing that your boss just, planted in your inbox, at least you know how to do it in this moment. Going into that conversation with yourself around what is it you really want is a whole new foreign land. It's brand new information. Okay. So naturally, there's going to be a little bit of resistance to it. Naturally, there's going to be a little bit of your brain going, is it okay to go here? Is it okay to hang out here? This is unsafe. So your natural intrinsic reaction is going to be to pull back. So the purpose of tonight's conversation, I want to say as well, is to open you up to a new way of thinking, open you up to some new questions. You may not get all of the answers tonight. And I want you to know that if you're experiencing any resistance to that or any of that, like, what's the answer to my question? Like, I really need to know, that in itself is a clue that you're starting to hang out in a new space. I say this to my clients all the time. When they say to me things like, I don't know, I'm like, yes. I get all silly about it. I'm like, yes, that's amazing. Because when you say, I don't know, or when you have that feeling of, oh, like, just give me the how, give me the steps, that means that you are stretching yourself into a whole new territory, which means you're asking new questions, you're going to get new answers. You're asking new questions, you're going to get new results. You're going to get unstuck. So if you're experiencing any of that tonight, hang in there, stay with me, sit in that level of slight uncertainty and trust that you will settle. And maybe, just maybe tonight, there'll be a couple of like insights and ahas coming out of that. Oh, thank you for that insight, Chadia. Yes, it is like being a workaholic to feel secure and safe. Such an interesting insight. Isn't it crazy how we do that? That if I keep being a workaholic, at least that gives me a feeling of safety and security. I know what to expect from that, right? It gives us this illusion of control, which is really what we're seeking. I always say, like, we're all control freaks at the heart of it. So it gives us this illusion of control. So when you say what you actually want, you start to build clarity. And clarity equals control, except that this form of clarity is a sustainable way to feel in control. Because when you know what you want, you can keep working towards it. When you know what you want, you can build that level of certainty. You can get back that clarity, that confidence to keep moving forward. Yet when you use it in the other way of just like the temporary fix with busy, I often think of this in the context of procrastination. It's like the short fix. It's like, no, I'll do that later so that I can just do this. And you think, oh yeah, this is lovely. And then you finish doing this thing and you're like, damn it, that thing's still over there. So it's a short-term solution. And I know that if you have been stuck for a long time and you've been busy for a long time, you want a much longer-term solution. Okay, so we're looking for sustainable. So that was number one, focus. What you focus on is what you get. So how can you focus on how you actually want to feel instead of just focusing on the busy and the stress, okay? We're moving on. We're moving quite rapidly on purpose. So I just want you to know that if you're feeling that this is quite fast paced, that's okay. I'm purposely kind of challenging you to take on all of these new ideas and kind of ruffle your subconscious mind right now to stretch a little bit, and know that I will be coming to the Q&A section. So the second strategy I want to share with you, I called it space. Now, before you panic, before you freak out, and before you worry that I'm going to tell you to stop and take a break, I want you to just know that don't worry, I'm not going there. Okay, I will take care of you. So at my most busy, stressed out point, everyone kept telling me, oh, you just need to take a break. And oh my God, it was such a trigger for me. I'd get so frustrated. I'm like, I don't need to take a break. I can handle it. I'm doing all the things. Who are you to tell me what to do? Like, I get quite righteous about it because that was my way of coping at the time. What I was doing is I was in the state of high stress, which means that my nervous system was on high alert. And I have no doubt that you have done some reading about the difference between our like parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, and how when we are in a high stress state, we get into this kind of flight, fight, or freeze. It's always tricky to say, flight, fight, or freeze mode, which means all we're doing, like, our entire system is wired to send all of the, to shut down as many body parts as possible. Literally things like digestion start to shut down so that your body can only focus on safety and survival. Try and make a decision from that state. Try and perform well at work. Try and get clarity over your next steps. Try and make a big life-changing decision like, should I or shouldn't I quit my job, when you are in that high stress state. What it actually does is it negatively affects our performance, our mental clarity, our decision making. No wonder why we are exhausted. No wonder why your energy is like, oh my God, I just can't fit anything else in my day. So the second strategy, when I talk about space, what I'm actually talking about is space for your nervous system. How can you insert these ways to just relax yourself a little bit? I am a big proponent of small, tiny steps. The question I always ask is, how can you make it easy? So I want you to take that question away, write it down. How can I make this easy? I'm not saying go and, quit your job or go on a sabbatical or take 6 weeks stress leave. Like, all of those things, fine. Go do them if you want to and if they work for your life situation. However, if you are in this pinch point right now and you are in high nervous system alert, the most important thing is actually not to be making decisions, because you're not in your right kind of mental clarity. The most important thing is to slow yourself down internally to come back to your equilibrium. Now, I think there's a lot of science around building successful, sustainable habits. And the most important message I want you to take away is actually the most successful way to change this behavior is small, tiny steps over time. You want to achieve 100 push-ups, you go and do 1 push-up every single day for 100 days, and you will develop a neural pathway in your brain that it knows that, hey, doing push-ups is easy, doing push-ups is safe, I can go here without thinking twice. As opposed to rocking up at the gym or the virtual gym and doing 100 push-ups on day 1, maybe you make it, maybe you don't. By day 2, you do 50. By day 3, you're like, I'm not going to bother. not only does it erode your self-esteem, but it's because your brain's fighting this sudden influx of like all of this uncertainty. Does that make sense? Is everyone following along? The comments are going, have slowed down a little bit. I don't want to lose you. Come back, come back. I will say as well that I'm going to be sharing a resource with you at the end of this webinar that you can go and download for free that goes into detail. It's a whole guide, a whole system that I've created around breaking up with busy. So just know that you will be taken care of. There are materials for you to go away. I know some people love homework or home play, as I love to call it. You can go and review this all in your own time. Okay? Make it easy when it comes to space. Make it easy when it comes to softening that nervous system and that stress response. And obviously this is where things like, yoga, meditation, mindfulness definitely come into play. However, I'm not telling you to go off and do all the things, because that's what the busy high achiever in you wants to do, is go and do more. I want you to take the message home tonight about being is much more important than doing, because when you can bring yourself back to a state of being in your body, and you can bring yourself back to equilibrium, the science actually shows that it improves all sorts of things: physical, mental, emotional capacities. Things like even your immunity improves. Which really brings me to the third strategy I want to share with you tonight, which I've called feel. Now, this is my favorite one, and I could honestly, you could come away on like a 10-day course with me and learn all about this. So know that what I'm sharing tonight is bite-sized, and it's here to entice you to think in a different way. One of the other reasons why you're stuck in the busy trap, being stuck there really starts to erode our confidence, because we think, oh, well, I'll do the other thing and, I'll just do something else and then I'll feel better. And then we don't feel better. So we start to question ourselves. Am I just not good enough? Am I just not cut out for this? And it certainly doesn't make you feel good, does it? That trap. It also is a result of you being very much stuck in your head. I imagine when you're in that busy mode, you're very much here. Like, give me a hands up, like a thumbs up, an emoji of sorts, to if anyone can ever identify with this feeling of being all in here all day, being like, oh my God, I need to do this next. And then what if I do this? Or should I go and see that? Or should I call my mom? Should I call my boss? Should I? Yeah, who's done the whole should I thing? We've got a whole bunch of hands up. That's amazing. I love it. Yes, you can identify. So to get unstuck, to get out of the trap, you have to get out of your head. Okay? And I say you have to get out of your head and you have to get into your heart. So what do I mean by that? Without that sounding just a little bit crazy, how do you do that? How do you get out of your head? You get out of your head by connecting back to your feelings. Because when you're in your head, you're not really feeling. It's just like, oh, it's tense. It's all in here. You're not associating in with the full experience of your body, of your life. Like, it's a full mental, emotional, physical feeling. When I finally took that time out from work, what actually started to happen, and I heard Glennon Doyle has this beautiful metaphor that it made sense to me, that she talks about the snow globe. And when you shake up the snow globe, that's kind of like our lives. They're busy and they're frantic, and the snow, there's always something going on, and it's pretty, but it's also kind of frantic. And when the snow settles and things come down, and then there's just silence and quiet and calm, and it's a place that we don't allow ourselves to go. Yet when I finally kind of just had to, like, I reached a burnout, like my body said, no way, no more, no thank you. Like I was crying at the drop of a hat. The thing that restored me in that moment, once everything had settled, and let me just say, the settling is not necessarily comfortable. So I really want to acknowledge that. I really want to acknowledge it as things are settling. It can feel uncertain, but it's about kind of training the brain to know that it's safe to go there. The thing that started to get me out of that place was starting to ask myself a different question. What's going to feel good right now? Is sitting on the couch going to feel good? Is going for a walk going to feel good? Is going for a coffee going to feel good? And actually, if any of you have ever come across me before, you will know that I talk about coffee, like going on a coffee date with myself a lot. Like, there's a whole strategy that I have there, because that was a process that really taught me to start to follow what feels good and to sit in that quietness and that aloneness with myself and tune into my feelings again. So let's do this right now, very quickly, and then we're going to move into the Q&A section shortly. Let's all do this together. I want you to imagine, and close your eyes if you like, because you know what? I can't see your video. No one can watch you. You're in the comfort of your home. And maybe just put a hand on your heart. And take a big breath in and a big sigh out. Putting my hand on my heart just makes me feel grounded. Like it just makes me feel like, oh yeah, that's right, I have a body. But put your hand wherever you like. Like if you want to put it in your lap or just like wave it around, you do you, okay? That's very important. And I want you to just imagine the last time that you felt really good. Maybe you can identify with that feeling of joy. Just imagine, where were you? What was going on for you? What was the conversation like? And how did it feel for you? Like, how did it feel in your body? Like maybe it was like a tingling feeling. Maybe it was pretty neutral. Maybe it was hot. Maybe it was cold. Like, how does it feel when you remember that particular moment? And now I want you to notice, how are you feeling right here, right now in this webinar, having just tuned into that? Maybe you've experienced a shift. What are you noticing that's different? Like maybe it was just a really subtle, like, feeling. Maybe it was a tingling. Maybe nothing changed at all for you, but just notice. Even accessing that place of feeling good in like the 10 seconds we just did it, maybe 20 seconds, can have a profound impact on you physically, emotionally, and mentally. Now imagine making some kind of big decision from that place. Now imagine showing up to work and performing from that place, or deciding whether or not you should quit your job, or deciding how to insert more time for yourself in your life. What happens? What likely happens is there's a much more open flow of creativity, of clarity. When you are in a state of feeling good, when you're in a place of joy, your brain is at its full beautiful capacity. Your body is at its full beautiful capacity. Like there are actually studies that show this, that joy is like the most optimum place to be for your brain. You can make like your mental clarity is so much better. And I know that that's what you're seeking. So imagine all of those things. Like what would it do to your focus? What would it do to your motivation? And I imagine if you're at a Freedom from Busy webinar, your motivation is a little bit low right now. I think of joy and feeling good as a muscle. And the most important thing with muscles is that we strengthen them. We work them out consistently and over time to build strength, which means that becomes your foundational strength. So if you are practicing feeling good in your life, if you're practicing joy, if you know how to get into that state, if you know what makes you feel good, then you know how to go back to it on your most stressful, challenging day as well. So I really imagine myself as if I'm doing these like strengthening, muscle conditioning exercises, so that on the day where I need it most, my foundational strength is already there to return to. Who can resonate with this? Who thinks that this is just a new level of awareness for you? Can you give me a thumbs up? Yeah. I'd love to hear. A really cool way, I'll just share a really quick trick or a quick tip, and then I'm going to move into the Q&A. Yeah, we've got a few thumbs up coming in. Thank you. Thank you, Chadia, as well. Ingrida, is that how I say your name? I love the little yeah. So a really quick way to tune into this, if you're like, yeah, but how? I don't know what feels good. I'm just stressed all the time. Then is one really quick way to do this is to literally write out every single activity that you had in your diary over the last week, everything that you've done, person you've interacted with, chatted to, all the Zoom calls, write it all out. And then just do a little mini stock take. Do it really fast, because when we do things fast, it kind of like your brain just has to switch off and your subconscious kicks in. And just ask yourself in terms of energy, like, did that give me energy, or did that drain my energy? Did that pump me up, or did it, drain me a little bit? Did I feel excited, or did I feel low? And just give it a little plus or minus. And it's super revealing as to some of the things that feel really good to you in your life. So we covered 3 strategies. We covered focus. What you focus on is what you get. We focused on space, making it really easy to create spaciousness in your life in small ways. I'm not talking about jumping into like fully blown blocking out diary or anything like that. Number 3 is feel. How can you start to work out your joy muscle? Okay. So as Anna has from A Small World has popped into the chat box. We are moving into the Q&A section of tonight's webinar. So I'm just going to take a little sip of water and come on over to the Q&A box. So if you have a question, please do fill it in that Q&A box. I'm going to open it up as well. Great. All right. So open, answered. Great. So we've got a few hellos. Great, great, great. Okay, thanks, Anna. You've done that for me. Amazing. So the first question I'm seeing here is from Andra. Was there any special experience that made you break with your habits and the busy trap, or was it a development over time? So Andra, when I look back, and like connecting the dots backwards is always a hell of a lot easier, right? When I look back, there were actually some pretty transformational moments that really were big shifts in the way that I was approaching things. And that had a big impact. So it's kind of, my answer is both. Those moments were things like, before I took that time off work, I actually would have been at least 6 months. Like, I'm slow to move on these things. I will say, like, you know, there was a lot of me learning the lesson a little bit and then taking some time, learning, taking some time. But there was one moment in particular where I was super busy, stressed at work on a weekend, finishing off some projects and also finishing off my master's assignment. And for some reason or another, I found myself Googling something that I had always wanted to do, which is go overseas and do a volunteer development program. And within hours, I had randomly applied for this program, had a conversation, booked this trip. Now, the reason I share that with you is what changed in that moment was the question that I asked myself. In that moment, instead of being all like stressed, and I just randomly sat there and went, oh, what's something I've always wanted to do and would feel really good? And it felt really good to Google that because it was a dream of mine. And it was almost like I gave myself permission to feel good, to follow that question. So there was that. There was the time off from work and having to really like redefine, how am I living? This isn't working. I don't feel well physically. I had to really just reconstruct the strategies that I was running. And then absolutely, so developing it over time, like practicing it over time, because it's like learning to ride a bicycle for the first time. You do great, and then you fall over, then you scrape your knee, then you don't want to get back up, and then you do, and then you try hands-free, and then you fall off again. And then suddenly this day happens where you just realize it's happening more organically. So it's a little bit of both. We've got another question. So answer live. How to done. Okay. How to break the busy trap to make space. How to start with the small steps, because a busy person is used to having a lot of steps all the time. Great question. I love this so much. Now, the reason I love this is also because a busy person, yes, is used to having a lot of the steps, or like a lot of steps all the time, and is also going to freak out if I tell you to create space, because it's like, I don't have space. Don't tell me to create space. And I get it. I would actually recommend two things. The first thing that I will recommend to start with the small steps is to really come back to the point that I was making around your nervous system and your body. And to start to notice, how are you feeling? And bring in some awareness about that. Now, the reason this is a small step is it could literally be the kettle is boiling in the morning, and instead of brushing your teeth at the same time or putting on the toast at the same time, you wait for the kettle to finish boiling and you ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? What this does, that awareness process, it helps you to get in tune with when you're like in that high state and that low state, and it just brings more awareness into it. So that would be one way that I would say, is like literally just checking in regularly with yourself. How am I feeling right now? Anything that you can do around equilibrium in your nervous system. And there's like dancing, like literally I'm going to suggest things like dancing around your living room. Like, you know, all of the things like meditation, mindfulness, etc., but they just add more doing to your list. If you're doing them, absolutely keep doing them. But the smallest things, like dancing around your living room, having a little stretch, can help you come down to equilibrium. How else to start with the small steps? Ask yourself, this answer is going to be different for everyone. So like, ask yourself the question of, how can I make this easy right now? That is literally a way to create space in your life. Like, if you are filling your diary up with tons of meetings, ask yourself, how could this be more easy? And just your body knows the response. If you say something like, oh, I could delete that one meeting, your body will be like, oh. So I'll give you an example. One of the things that led to me taking that time off work was I happened to be able to experience a coaching session firsthand at a weekend thing I was at. And I went to open my mouth to ask her about some career things, and what came out was tears. And she's like, what would make the biggest difference in your life right now? And I just hadn't asked myself that question. And the answer that came up from me was, I need 2 weeks off work to do nothing. And my body just went, oh. So pay attention to your body. That is my answer to starting with the small steps. Thank you. I don't know who that was from. That was anonymous. Okay, so we've done that. Chadia says, how can we break the work routine, the constant need to be performing in an ultra competitive environment such as New York City? Yeah. So Chadia, I would be asking you that constant need to perform. I would be asking you some internal questions about that. So to really get to know your own personal response to that, I can ask, what is that need based on? What would happen if I didn't, match my high achieving standard? Like, what would happen if I didn't perform? Like, take yourself through that conversation. Is like, what is this really about? And I'm going to guess that it's going to have something to do with one of those fears that we touched on in the first piece that I shared, and that fear being, well, if I don't perform, what are people going to think? Like, if I don't perform, they're going to think that I'm not good enough. If they don't perform, maybe I'll lose my job. Like, those are some of the conversations that we have in our heads. So when you can get clear on what the actual fear is for you, you can start to challenge it. You can start to question it. Okay, so that would be step one. And yeah, to break that work routine. Honestly, I know that my answers are going to challenge you. I know that you're going to potentially experience some resistance, because what you're wanting is like the simple fix it all response. I get that, and I really want to acknowledge that feeling. And if you're noticing a little bit of that resistance, that's you going into a new zone. So the new zone is where you can get new possibilities. Honestly, this comes back to challenging yourself on some of those deeper fears and questioning yourself, is that true? That story that I'm telling myself, is that true? I hope that helps, Chadia. We've got a thumbs up. Great. Thank you. We've got Jai asking, what are some examples that one can use to train accessing finding joy? Basically, what's the workout for your joy muscle? Oh, I love this, Jai. You know what, Jai? I've actually got, for a starting point, I do have a freebie over on my website, which everyone could go grab, which is 99 ways to feel good. So if you are, you can get it at the daisypatch.co.uk/feel good. Yeah, that's what it is. You can find it easily. And that would be, like what I am about to respond to you is like, step one would be brainstorm. Like, that's kind of what I did for you with the 99 ways. I'm like, here are 99 things that make me feel good. Maybe they could be of help for you. Maybe they could be of inspiration to you. That would be one thing. Similar to the question that I answered before, I would find moments throughout your day to bring some awareness to how you're currently feeling, because I often say that when I talk about joy, I'm not talking about necessarily that feeling. Like, you don't have to be skipping down the street with, absolute pleasure and joy all the time. That's not realistic. I actually talk about joy in the context of the full spectrum of emotions, and therefore stepping into your full experience of life. So in order to experience all of the emotions, you have to allow feelings in. That's kind of what I'm saying. And therefore, anything that you can do throughout your day to acknowledge how you're feeling. Even if it's waking up in the morning and asking yourself, how am I feeling right now? Like, that is practicing joy, because it's like, how am I feeling? I'm recognizing and bringing awareness to how I feel right now. And when you know how you currently feel, you can start to question, you know, like what makes me feel good as well. The mini kind of tip or tool that I shared at the end of step 3 as well, around that activities list and like really checking in, like what energizes me and what drains me. Really sitting with that almost in like this beautiful brainstorming meditative way and trusting your body. It'll tell you, oh, that was fun. Oh, that wasn't. Asking yourself questions like, when was the last time I felt good? When was the last time I experienced joy? And getting into the level of detail. Like, what was it about that experience? What was it that I loved? How did it make me come alive? How does it actually feel? Like giving language. The more that you can express it, you know, through words and writing and talking it out, the more you feel it as well. And then it's prioritizing it. It's actually showing up for yourself and, you know, giving yourself some sort of commitment, Jai, on a, you know, regular basis that you will choose joy. And I work with the most, you know, incredible, like stressed out, busy people who are going through some challenging stuff. And then they'll get on the phone to me and be like, oh, I had this really kind of, you know, terrible week and I'm so joyful right now because. So there's ways to kind of blend it in. I hope that helps. I mean, I could, like I said, 10-day workshop on joy. Okay, oh, I've done that one. Often we are told that it is because we don't manage our time properly. Any tips on how to choose? Time management is worth several webinars, I'm sure. Yeah, so I have a very interesting take here. What I'm sharing with you tonight is unconventional. You're not going to find these steps necessarily in a time management workshop, because I really believe that when you can get yourself into a state of feeling good, like when you have joy as your foundation and you know how to access it and you know how to come back to it, it's essentially time becomes more fluid. You are back in control of your time. And when you're leading from a place of joy, when you're leading from a place of what makes me feel good, then things like diary management become really simple and really easy. I talk a lot about when you know what makes you feel good, it becomes your inner compass and it becomes really easy to make decisions. So a lot of the time when we are stretched for time and busy and overwhelmed, it's because we've actually got a lot of decisions. We make like loads of decisions. We're constantly making decisions like, oh, am I hungry? Am I not hungry? Do I need to go to the toilet? Do I not need to go to the toilet? Do I have that date in the diary or not? Like, we're constantly making decisions throughout our day, which can overwhelm the system. It's like decision fatigue. So I actually don't look at it in terms of time management so much as I look at it in terms of come back to your foundation, come back to feeling good, know your compass, and use that compass to make those decisions. And you will find naturally that time no longer becomes the issue, because it actually, you're not weighing up against all these different things. So let me check that I've answered that fully. That was anonymous. I'm not sure. We're told it's because we don't manage our time properly. Yeah. And I would say that like that, if you're not kind of, you know, quote marks, managing time, it's probably because you're exhausted and you're in a stressed state and you're not making clear decisions. So actually for me, it comes back to getting your decision-making control back, which comes from, yeah, that feel-good place. Great question. Thank you. Do you recommend breathing exercises, meditations to free myself from busy? Of course. Like, I mean, I'm absolutely, I've been in a workshop with Brene Brown before, and it was really funny how she referred to this. She's like, when someone first told me to just breathe, I wanted to like punch them in the face, you know, like this kind of reaction. I'm like, oh my God, that's me. But breathing is so valuable. And honestly, it's like, I do it all the time now. I was the person in the office who would do this like constantly throughout the day, and everyone's like, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm just letting out my stress, or like, I'm just relaxing. Tons of research. I mean, I don't even need to tell you the amount of research around breathing and meditation to free yourself from busy. I will make the point though that you do you, like do what feels good, right? If the very thought of sitting down to do like a 20-minute meditation right now sends you into some sort of panic, well, then maybe now is not the time to do that. Make meditation your own. Meditation could literally be sitting, staring at a wall. I often sit on my couch and like stare at the sun streaming in the afternoons, and that feels meditative to me. Sometimes I, you know, like I mentioned the kettle thing before, like sometimes I boil the kettle and just stand there. That's my meditation. Yeah. Oh, Jai's asking the website. Yes, I will. Sorry, Jai. So yes, I do recommend all of those things. And my big thing with that is to come back to what feels good to you and to check in that you're not doing it because you should. Does that make sense? But absolutely. I mean, I do my best to do things like meditation and yoga and movement definitely as well. Okay, we are doing great. All right, next question. I'm just going to read it because it's slightly longer and I'm just going to pick up the key points. Thank you, Maria. Oh, okay, I love this. I'm an innovator, so I'm always creating a masterclass, a retreat, etc. I'm non-stop. Yes, I love creating as well. And I end up not performing the right things first. Sometimes I cannot find myself within all the papers. I have things everywhere. What to do to organize my head and my business life. My house is impeccable, only what I'm working on now. So interesting, isn't it? Sometimes we can be so good at taking care of one area of our life, like we show up at work impeccably and then we get home and we're like a mess, or vice versa. What I'm hearing from your question, Maria, is like, when I've got all of the ideas and I don't know how to prioritize, like how do I bring back a little sense of like control in that situation? Is that right? So, I mean, I have loads to say on this. And I'm going to be cheeky and I'm really going to bring it back to focus on what feels good. So particularly when you have a lot of, a lot of the business conversation, like I can get into things like making sure you're clear on your mission and your purpose, making sure you know the activities that really fuel you. Do you know things like, have you heard about the 80-20 rule? Like, are you focusing on the 20% of your activities that give you 80% of your results? Like there's tons of things like that in terms of prioritization that can really support you. And if you don't know what lights you up, if you don't know what feels good, that's always going to be a mess for you. So I would kind of give yourself permission to like maybe not worry so much about that, and maybe just bring it back to a little bit of looking at all of those different things that you have going on right now, and tuning into, well, where am I getting my most joy from? And how, you know, where, and if I'm not getting joy from that, like what's the block? You know, and the block, and someone's just popped into the chat box, FOMO, fear of missing out. Yeah. Question the FOMO around, well, what's this really about? Because chances are it's going to come back to one of those things around worried about what people are going to think, or am I good enough? So check in with yourself. I hope that's useful, Maria. Thank you so much. So we've got a couple of minutes left. Let me see if I can do any more questions. Oh, 80-20. Yes, I forgot about it. Look, the 80-20 rule is fabulous. You know, if you're in a job, if you own your own business, but really to check in terms of 80-20 from the context of what you love doing, not just, yes, like write out a list of all of the things that have gotten you results, and write out all of the things that you love. Like, please include both of them. It can be really, really magnetic. So I am going to just share, I did mention right at the start that I wanted to, let me get out of that screen. I wanted to share a guide with you. Now this guide, I call it my freedom from busy guide, but I call it my breaking up with busy guide. You can go ahead and download that for free. It is super comprehensive. It's actually just had a mega upgrade recently, and it's you know, essentially the basis of a course, which means I'm not sure how much longer it's going to be up on my site for. Please go and get it, because it's going to give you some more questions to take away from tonight's session, to really sit with them. A lot of them are questions you probably haven't thought to ask yourself before. You know, I worded in a slightly different way to how I've summarized things tonight in terms of focus, space, and feel. However, I do share 5 ways for you to really break up with busy in that guide. And I just want to check, like, just to say, like, I have loved your participation tonight. Thank you so much for showing up live. This is an absolute gift that you have given yourself. And just know that even by being here, you have created wheels in motion to create this shift and to really kind of change the dynamic and the relationship that you have with busy and stress in your life. I would love to connect. Like, please drop me an email. All of my details are over on my website here. or, you know, come and join me on Instagram. That's my favorite social place to hang out, at the Daisy Patch Coaching. If there's anything I can do, if you have any extra questions that haven't been answered, I'm just going to double check open questions, exactly what I, okay, great. Yes, that's useful. Thank you for your comments back. That's so helpful. Amazing. So we've got about another minute. So I'm more than happy to answer one more question if anybody wants. And I'm just going to check the chat box as well. Great. Thank you so much. Oh, there's lots of thank yous. You are so welcome. Well, whatever you are all doing tonight, I really hope that is a joyful one for you. And I've had so much fun hanging out with you. So thank you for being here. Bye for now.